Hey everybody, this is Dr. William Clark here for your class, Creating a Nonprofit Budget to Pay You To. And I'm glad to see you guys coming into the room. Glad you're going to be joining me today. Because I have a power-packed hour or so to share this information with you, I'm going to go ahead and get started and begin to share this information with you now. Just so we're on the same page, my goal is to help you raise money now for your worthy cause. It's important for you to know what my agenda is and why you're taking this class. If you wanted to do something else, you'd have taken a different class. And so everything that I teach in this class and other class, this is all about helping you raise money now. It's not about tomorrow. It's not about next year. It's not about the next decade. It's about now, and it's for your worthy cause. Now, just a little bit about me. This is a picture of me standing with a $200,000 check, and I help nonprofits raise serious money for their organizations. Not that we don't help not organizations, raise smaller amounts, but what you get ready to learn today and what we talk about often is the importance of raising serious money so that your nonprofit can have the resources necessary to do what it's called to do or purpose to do, and for the purposes of this particular class, so you can raise enough money to pay you to. That's why you're taking this class, and that's why we teach what we teach. But because you're joining me today for this session, I'm going to make sure you receive a couple of resources. This is the first one that you're going to get, a copy of my partnership assessment tool. If you're going to do anything with this information, I'm going to make sure that you start to raise money. You're going to learn how to budget money to pay you to, but also this tool allows you to find the right partner that will help you raise more money and will position you to budget your money to pay you and your staff too. Now, the tool I'm going to show you today around budgeting for yourself and budgeting for your staff has helped me raise over $900,000 over the past 12 months. That was the previous fiscal year. We haven't closed out our fiscal year yet, but I know that we have exceeded our goals of this particular fiscal year. But also this tool has helped me pay salaries and fringe costs of over $775,000 a year. This includes my salary as well. And I have to tell you, just so we're clear about what we do and why it's important for you to take this class, everything that we've done has been designed to make sure our staff, including me, has a livable wage and that we get paid well to do what we love to do. So this is not a charity case. This is something that people actually do to make a living, to prepare and take care of their families. And so what you get ready to hear, what I'm going to help you with is designed to help you do the same exact thing. There is an earnings disclaimer that whatever I show you, you may get different results, if not better results. And if your results are better than mine, would you do me a favor and tell me what you've accomplished? And that way we can share your success with other people and encourage other people. Sometimes it's the story that you share that may connect with other people that can make a significant difference in somebody understanding what they got to do. Now, I do have a favor to ask you. I'm looking at the screen now. I'm looking at everybody who is on the screen. Glad to see everyone. Whatever you do today, I am asking for a favor. Do you promise to share this information to do good for your community? If I can get a head nod, if I can get a thumbs up, if I can get a yes in the chat box, that would be super helpful. I don't want to move forward without getting agreement from all you all. Do you promise to do good? Lauren, thank you for saying yes. Others, come on, send me a yes in the notes. I need to know that you're agreeing to these terms. Tammy, thank you for saying yes. It's important for you guys to agree to say yes. Thank you, Letitia, if I said that correctly. Thank you for saying yes. It's important for you to come to agreement because what you're learning today is going to help you and it's going to help you make a difference. And so if you're agreeing to saying yes, I'm glad to move forward with this information. Just a little bit more about me. I have raised over my career $900 million in grants and nonprofit contracts. I have cultivated over 4.5 billion in economic development project dollars for minority and women-owned businesses. I have an earned doctorate degree in strategic leadership. I think that's something worth noting. And I love to ride my road bike. I got my baby over here. She's looking right at me. I've been able to take her out and I'm just now able to get on her because I hurt my foot, but I'm super excited about that. And hopefully I can get my riding legs under me as soon as possible to hit the road much more aggressively. Now, before we move forward, I do want to share a couple of resources with you. I want to share my book on the right side of the screen, Sustainable. This is my doctoral thesis. This is a book that talks about how to develop a sustainable faith-based and nonprofit organization. I talk about how your nonprofit can generate revenue beyond grants and the infrastructure you need to generate that type of revenue. Your nonprofit, which you're going to learn today, can earn money. It can create businesses. It can generate a profit. You're going to see that in a little bit. And I talk about what to do with that money and how to make it a normal occurrence within your organization. The next book you see on the right is Grant Writing 101. This book reveals all of the secrets, the hidden gems that you wondered about, and you wanted to know, how do they continuously get these grants? How can I start to get on this wave to make a difference, financial difference in my organization? So this book, Grant Writing 101, reveals all of the secrets, all the tips, all the tricks that you've ever wanted to know. Simply go to gumroad.com/Dr. William P. Clark, and you can get your copy of those books there. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and follow me on all social media platforms by searching for Dr. William P. Clark. You will see this smile on the screen, and you will be able to tap into all the resources I have available on social media that I share on a daily basis. Also, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe to my podcast, the Dr. William Clark Podcast. I teach, I share, I give insight and secrets about all things nonprofit, fundraising, grant writing, and leadership. So if that is of interest to you, I have my podcast available on all platforms that you see on the screen. Go ahead and subscribe. Next up, I encourage you to join my nonprofit fundraising strategies Facebook group. It's a private group just for people like you who want to talk about all things fundraising. I know there are all types of nonprofit groups out there, and God bless them, but I talk about fundraising strategies of all types. I answer questions. I provide and initiate ideas. As a matter of fact, yesterday, I think early this morning, I shared an idea about how to do a virtual fundraiser for your organization. I gave about a 10-step blueprint. I encourage you to go ahead and ask to join that group so you can read up on that and read what I posted. I post those things just for people like you so you can move forward in fundraising and not be stopped by this pandemic. I do have a special offer to share with you at the end of this class, and that offer is an invitation to be a part of my masterclass, What You Should Know Before Applying for Grants. I share this masterclass with you because it teaches you everything you need to know about fundraising now and tomorrow. It's an ongoing learning cycle, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But now to the good stuff. I hope you guys are ready for the good stuff. There are 3 secrets to raising serious money for your nonprofit. Secret number 1, you need a clear strategy. A clear strategy matters and is the 3rd fastest way to raising serious money for your nonprofit. Secret number 2 is performance matters and is the 2nd fastest way to raising serious money for your nonprofit. And can you guess what secret number 1 is, or secret number 3 is? What's the fastest way to raise money for your nonprofit? You guessed it, relationships. Relationships bridge gaps to funding and is the fastest way to raising serious money for your nonprofit. Now today, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into secret number 1. A clear strategy matters and is a 3rd fastest way to raising serious money for your nonprofit. But more specifically, we are here to talk about creating a nonprofit budget that results in paying you too. Now, before I teach you how to do that, I want to give context about what it's like to pay yourself and to create a budget. On the screen, you see a cup of Starbucks, and it is a 12-ounce cup of a latte coffee. The customer, as you know, buys the product. They pay the price, the full cost price, and the full cost price includes overhead, profits, and other necessary expenses to do business. Now, that 12-ounce cup of coffee represents the entire Starbucks model. If you look at the bottom of this image, you see the true cost of that coffee. You see it takes 5 to 10 cents for labor and rent and utilities, 15 cents for the cup and lid and the sleeve and the stirrer, 20 cents for steamed milk, and 32 cents for 2 shots of espresso. Now, if you're like me, you're looking at this and saying, man, I can make my own coffee for almost 75 cents. Why do I go to Starbucks to get my coffee, or to Dunkin' Donuts, or fill in the blank? You go because you like the product, they've done a good job marketing, etc. But listen, you're not paying 75 cents for your cup of coffee. You're actually paying more than that. Look at the rest of the things you're paying for. The 74% stuff. Look, let's start from the bottom. Profits for shareholders, bonuses for executives, indirect costs, administrative costs, distribution, marketing, and sales. All of that costs $2.23 per cup of coffee, which represents 74% of what you pay for when you go get a cup of coffee at Starbucks. I know you might be falling out of your chair and saying, dude, why am I paying so much for coffee? I'm not here to have that argument with you. I get it. Sometimes you just want to do that. And think about this. This model is relevant to a hamburger, a milkshake, a order of French fries, and fill in the blank. I know you think you're paying for the food, but in fact, the food or the drink item you're paying for is paying for the operations of the businesses that you frequent. And I want you to start to think about this model as you think about what does it really cost to run your nonprofit? Does it cost 75 cents to run Starbucks, or does it cost $3 to run Starbucks? And when you put all this together, you start to realize it really costs $3. And as you order a larger cup of coffee, of course, that creates a broader spread of revenue and profits for Starbucks. But look at the typical nonprofit business model. The first step that we take is we enter the marketplace, whether you just create your EIN, you get your 501c3 status, you get an address, etc. The second step we take is we go to third-party donors and begin the process of raising financial support for our nonprofit. The third step that we take is that we secure a donor to subsidize the cost of services and delivery. And the fourth step that we typically take is we realize that revenue and services are provided for free at a reduced cost. This should sound very familiar. This is what we call the revenue or the fundraising cycle for a nonprofit. This is what we typically go through. But the question is, when you look back at the Starbucks example, what is the cost of running your business? What goes into a nonprofit budget? Well, let's start to break that down point by point. First up, debt. In many cases, nonprofits that are mature carry debt. It is not the type of debt you think of when you take a loan to start a business, you take a loan to purchase a house, you take a loan to purchase an investment portfolio. In fact, debt typically for nonprofits is the type of debt used to pay operational costs. This is what you call credit lines or credit extensions, where a nonprofit gets a credit line of X number of dollars to cover their payroll costs over a 1 month, 2 month, or 3 month period. The revenue collection of the nonprofit from its grants, its sponsorships, its events pays back the debt, and you reuse the debt to pay the salaries as well as the fringe costs. And so this is why debt is up here, but it's also small in comparison to everything else that goes into a nonprofit budget. Next, a nonprofit should have reserves. For those of you that believe nonprofits should not make a profit and you don't know why it should make a profit, it's because you need reserves. You need reserves for moments that will pop up, just like the coronavirus. Revenue may have been paused or stalled within your organization. And if so, how have you been keeping your doors open? Typically, it's because of your line of credit, and it's because of the reserves you have in the bank. Just because you're a nonprofit doesn't mean you don't make a profit. You make a profit, and we'll explain this more later, but you make a profit to put it back into the business and to the programs for items like reserves. Next, within a nonprofit budget is growth capital. You want to expand your program like any other business. You don't want to stay stuck doing one thing in one community or one city. Perhaps you want to grow. I know for us, I have grown our program exponentially, but even in the middle of Corona, I have wanted to grow to other cities. This was our target for this year before the pandemic hit, and we are still targeting growth. So we are able to think about growth because of growth capital that has been set aside for growth opportunities. Next, fixed assets, desks, chairs, PCs, if you actually use PCs, filing cabinets, etc. Those things cost money. It goes into your budget. If you have people coming into an office, then you have to pay for the stuff that they use on a daily basis. Next up, working capital. What money do you use to buy supplies? What money do you use to pay for printer ink and print paper, pencil, pens, etc.? You need working capital. You need capital to pay for your electric bill, your rent bill, your water bill, your gas bill. Do you have a water cooler? Do you have a refrigerator? Whatever it costs to run the business, you need working capital. Next, you need operating capital, right? It's almost the same thing as working capital. What are you going to use to operate the business? You need to pay people to operate the business. That means you pay their salaries. That means you pay their 401k, their retirement, etc. You need operating costs. That goes into the budget. And then program expenses. Again, This also includes people. That means the staff that operates the program. That also includes expenses for your program. If you give away bonuses to clients that come in, or you give them stipends, or any supplies that you need for the program, or any incentives that goes into that, plus the staff, plus the rent for that particular location, etc. When you look at this breakdown, there's a lot that goes into your nonprofit budget. And if you're newer or if you're smaller, these are things you may not have considered when you launched your nonprofit. This is why a lot of people go into a nonprofit and they launch it 10 years ago and they still haven't gotten off the ground. It's important for you to understand part of it is because you haven't calculated your full cost of running your program. Now, what happens when you do not budget appropriately to operate the business or the nonprofit? There are a couple of things that happen, and I want you to process this with me. When you don't budget appropriately for your nonprofit business, you start to lack liquid cash. You start to have little capacity to perform the services that are associated with your mission. That means whatever you are envisioned to do, whatever your mission is, you can't do it like you wanted to do it because you don't have any cash in the bank to operate. Next, you start to creep on your mission and you start to chase money. If you ever had a budget and money start to go away, funders start to peel away and no longer fund your work, you start to chase every grant that comes out because you're trying to meet all of your expenses. You're trying to meet every expense that exists within your organization. You start to mission creep and you start to chase money. Next, you start to see dysfunction in leadership and program operations. I can't tell you how often I see within organizations dysfunctional leadership, non-visionary leadership, unstructured leadership. And it trickles down from the CEO or executive director all the way down to the program staff. And this is when you start to get complaints about your program because your staff, they're disgruntled. They don't have professionalism. They're frustrated. They're scared that they're not going to get paid or they're going to miss the paycheck because they know that revenue is coming in. And then lastly, you start to realize all these things start to compile and you're unable to meet the needs of the community and you lose all credibility. This is probably the worst thing that can happen. When people realize they can't trust your organization to deliver on services, they can't trust your organization to keep its lights on or keep its doors open or pay its rent or pay its people, word gets around, rumors spread, both good and bad. And when it gets around to the community, the people who actually utilize your service, that means you can't even meet capacity, meet the demand, and you lose all credibility, and it's hard to gain that back. I want to read this quote by Neil Eddington, and it says this: the charity mindset assumes that a nonprofit starts from a position of need, inadequacy, and burden, rather than a position of opportunity, strength, and effectiveness. It's important for you to understand what you're doing as a nonprofit business. Yes, you are a nonprofit, and yes, the profits do not belong to you, but that does not mean you are a charity. That does not mean you're desperate. That does not mean you do every fundraiser that comes to mind. The idea of doing t-shirt sales, cupcake sales, dinner sales, car washes, fill in the blank, whatever you come up with, they're not going to move the needle, because what that does for you is it puts you in a position to look like you need a hand out. That is not what you need. You need to raise serious money so that you can fulfill your mission. In order to raise serious money, you got to learn how to budget correctly so that you know what you need to raise. And you got to look at the fact that you as a nonprofit, look at the rest of this particular quote. You got to look at the fact that you are positioned to offer an opportunity. You are strengthened to do what you need to do, and you are effective at doing your job. This is why it's important for you to understand how to budget your money. Now, you need to know something about nonprofits and the way they're structured. Nonprofits are corporations. They are companies. Their tax statuses is what makes them different from a for-profit entity. I want to be clear about this. Many of you have started nonprofits thinking it's a charity. It's something that will fulfill my ministry call or make my heart feel good, etc. What you've actually done when you signed up to get an EIN number from the IRS and you got your 501c status, what you've done is said to the IRS, I am starting a small business. And my hope is that the small business grows to a mid-size or a large business. A nonprofit is a business, and nonprofits are allowed to make a profit. What it cannot do is distribute the profit. So in exchange for being tax exempt, if you have a profit or a surplus at the end of your fiscal year, you cannot distribute it because a nonprofit is not owned by anybody. But let's go down the line. Look at these comparisons here. Let's go from left to right. Nonprofit corporations to for-profit corporations. Nonprofits provide products and services to customers. Look at a for-profit. A for-profit provides products and services to customers. We both have customers. Next, nonprofits have boards of directors. For-profit corporations, your LLC, it also has a board of directors. Next, a nonprofit can generate profits. It can start businesses. It can sell services. A for-profit can generate profits as well. It does sell services. But look at the red box. This is where the distinction comes in. A nonprofit has no owners and no stockholders. This is why you cannot distribute profits at the end of the year. A for-profit has an owner with equity stake and shareholders, okay? A nonprofit cannot distribute surpluses because there are no owners. A nonprofit cannot distribute profits because there are no stockholders. However, a for-profit accrues to the entity and the owners that control the controlling interests of the LLC. Lastly, a nonprofit is operated for the benefit of the public, okay? This is why you're given tax-exempt status. A for-profit is operated for the economic benefit of the owner and its stockholders and its partners. Notice the difference. The top green says you can run a for-profit entity as a nonprofit. You just can't distribute the revenue. And because of that distinction, this is why it is important for you to understand that you are running a business. I need somebody in the comments just to type in the comments, I'm running a business. I'm going to open up my screen here, look at some of the folks who are on the screen. Tammy, can you just say to the screen, Tammy, I'm running a business. Just say it to me, Tammy. I'm running a business. Tanika, type it in there. Holly, type it in there. Quadia, type it in there. Sheila, Letitia, Lauren, Lashia, type in there. I'm running a business. I'm not running a charity. I'm not running a handout or a hand-me-down. I'm running a business. Come on, y'all. Text it to me. I'm running a real business here. This is why I can't give stuff away for free. It may be free to my customers, but I got to charge somebody to run a business. I am running a business. This is what we do for a living. We run a business. It just so happens to be, thank you, Lauren. It just so happens to be a nonprofit. But let's keep going. Even as a nonprofit, we got to think about sustainability. This book looks familiar because it's my book. I talk about sustainability. There are 3 things I introduce in this book that we need to think about when we want to sustain our nonprofits. We need to think about having sound leadership. You're taking this class because you want to build your professional skills so that you can take it back to your nonprofit. That's good leadership. Second, you want to introduce innovation on a regular basis. Yes, you have your core program, but you want to introduce ideas that will advance your program and make you financially attractive to a funder. And then lastly, you need renewable resources. Remember in the previous slide, we talked about a nonprofit can generate profits. That is the third bullet down in the green box. So with that being said, when you look at my third step to sustainability, renewable resources, it's all about profits on a regular basis. What does that look like? Typically, when I'm advising clients, we talk about what sustainability looks like. This is a model that I developed for our nonprofit years ago, and it's the design of a house. And if you notice that in this house, there's a ton of things going on. At the bottom level, we're offering programs and meetings, etc., that we are offering and generating ourselves. And we may rent out the bottom level to people who want to use our office for community space. We speculated at the time, this is a couple years old and the numbers have definitely grown, that we would generate $40,000 in the community space at the bottom alone. Next, on the mid-level, you see 3 offices there. We felt that we can offer services to our community that maybe we can't provide internally. So we're going to rent our offices out to 3 different small businesses that services our community and our target clientele. And they not only benefit because they get access to our clients, but we benefit because we can make direct referrals to our clients by saying, hey, go to office 1, 2, or 3 to get the following services. We saved on money, or overhead costs on salary and fringed, but we started generating revenue because we rented the offices and we speculated about $18,000 or so. Then on the top floor, we had rental units, 2 apartments that generated close to $15,000 a piece. When you add all that up, that brought in about $80,000 that we speculated. And when you look at my model of sustainability, step 1, leadership, step 2, innovation, and step 3, renewable resources, this greenhouse represents renewable resources. You have to begin to budget accordingly to start to build renewable resources. This does not take into account revenue we were generating from grants and fundraisers and partnerships, events, etc. This takes into account the transition we wanted to make to build a sustainable nonprofit that even when revenue went away from a funder, or let's say a sponsor decided not to sponsor us anymore, we still brought in our own income. Again, we can generate profit as a nonprofit, and because of that, we can bring in our own income despite what people take away from us if they thought to do that. What you should do during a budget development process is simple. Include key decision makers from across your organization. That means program staff, development staff, finance staff, administrative staff, and executive staff. As you guys have these conversations, be multidimensional. That means address issues relative to your expenses, both natural and functional expenses, and then start to build revenue categories. Begin to identify financial impact program by program. You got to look at the revenue that you're going to generate by each program and what the expenses are by each program. You want to incorporate consideration for potential capital needs. If you are responsible for the heater or the boiler or the roof, if you own a building, you got to consider all that stuff, or maybe capital costs associated with buying a high-end copier, etc. Those things matter to your expenses and what you might need to fundraise for. And then lastly, in most cases, you need to work towards overall financial surplus. You need to focus on making a profit at the end of your fiscal year. Now, here's where this is what you came to learn. How do you structure a budget to pay you to? Are you guys ready to learn that? Can I get some head nods? Can I get a thumbs up, a yes in the chat, just to make sure y'all still hanging there with me? Are you ready to learn how to budget? Thank you, Tammy. Are you ready to learn how to budget so you can get paid too? Thank you, Letitia. This is why you're taking this class. Lauren says, heck yes. All right, Lauren, I ain't gonna waste your time. You clearly are ready to learn how to do that. All right, this is how you're gonna do that. Thank you, Tanika. Thank y'all are funny. All right, in the budget, there are 3 categories you need to be aware of. Tier 1, specific program expenses. Tier 2, shared costs allocated to programs. And Tier 3, overhead. Now, before I get started, if you have questions, write them down. We're going to take questions in the chat a little later, and I may bring someone on live to chat with me live to talk about their specific questions. And I assume you're going to have some questions about this. Let's talk about Tier 1. Tier 1 talks about program expenses. Look at this. You're looking at personnel expenses and other program expenses that are on the screen. This includes your executive director, program director, staff members, including teacher A, teacher B, assuming you're doing something instructional, bookkeeper and grant writer, and fringe costs. All of that needs to be calculated in your Tier 1 program expenses. But notice that your bookkeeper and your grant writer are not relevant to the program. A funder will not pay for that. However, a funder will pay for the executive director, program director, and program specific staff. Look at teacher A. Notice that teacher A is specifically assigned to program A, and teacher B is assigned to program B. If you have multiple programs, that's how you start to pay different staff people. You assign them to a specific program. But notice this, depending on who you are and what your position is while you're taking this class, the program director and the executive director are both paid through both programs. Notice that the program director's salary is split down the middle, $34,000 and $34,000 between program A and program B. This is essential for you to understand, because when you are pursuing funding from a funder and they only have a certain amount to give you, you will notice that they're going to fund a specific program, and you got to figure out how to split up salaries between the programs to ultimately pay the full salary of the staff. It's easier for teacher A and teacher B, as you can see on the screen, but it can get complicated when you start to look at your admin staff, your program director staff, and even the executive director, you. Notice that the executive director's salary is not evenly split between program A and program B. We will address that in a moment. But I hope this begins to provide insight into how you start to budget appropriately to not only pay staff, but to pay you. I can't forget the fringe costs. Fringe costs must be calculated within every budget. Fringe costs includes overhead such as retirement, 401k, vacation, FICA, and everything else that goes into that. And I will provide resources for you in a moment to help you understand what goes into that particular cost. Notice other program expenses: classroom supplies, snacks for students, bus rentals so that we can go ahead and take the kids to an event, and then audit fees aren't even a part of the program, but it's a part of what we got to pay for. Notice this: pens, pencils, printer ink, printer paper, your computers, your laptop, your tablet, all that program supply stuff goes into that $12,200 budget and that $14,600 budget, and it's split between the various programs. Look at the snacks, $2,200 and $3,000. Now, it's possible that program A is much smaller than program B, I guess, and that's why they have a number expense that's different. Program A they probably serve older kids, so they are able to take them on bus trips, while the other program B does not. That makes sense. But what's most important for you to understand is that when you start the budget, it's not about saying, hey, here's the overall cost of what we do. You got to break it down by program, because funders are going to be looking at this. Look at tier 2. Look at the rest of this stuff. Rent, utilities, office supplies, and depreciation, if relevant, is included in program expenses. Your rent, when you rent an office or community space, is a part of the program expense. The place where you operate your kids program, your youth program, your women's program, your teens program, your returning citizens program, it costs money. The place I'm sitting in recording this class, it costs money. Where we operate the program downstairs, it costs money. Our offices around the state where I'm in, it costs money. And every program pays for our rent. And if utilities are separate, it gets to be paid for utilities. Office supplies, again, printer ink, paper, a pen, pencil, whatever you need for staff is calculated here in depreciation. If you own your building, you might want to calculate depreciation costs. I won't cover that because most people won't have that issue. But notice how all of this is calculated in your program expense. Look at the budget for program A, $178,000. Program B, $160,000. When you are saying when you're articulating the cost of your program to a funder, you got to stop. This is why I have always been frustrated with newbies who said, I just need $5,000 to operate my program, my kids program, my youth program, my women's program, my range program. No, you don't. You're lying. You don't know your cost, because $5,000 are only going to pay for snacks and bus rental. And if that's all you want, have at it. There's nothing to celebrate when you get a $500 grant. I mean, I get it when you're new and you've never had it before, but it's nothing to celebrate because it really doesn't cover the cost of what it takes to do the business. Look at program A, $178,000, and all you're asking for is $5,000. Listen, it costs money to run program A because the executive director has to do work. The program director has to do work. Teacher A has to do work. And this is a simplified version of the budget. This doesn't include other program staff that's associated with your program. Supplies. How are you going to pay for supplies? You're going to pay for it out of pocket? You're going to get a handout? You're going to have a supply drive? Is that what you're going to do?
And I know some of you are saying, well, Dr. Clark, we do that in the works. Yeah, but how many kids are you really serving? What type of impact are you really having on your program if you're just doing these drives here and there? I don't do drives for my nonprofit. If I do it, it's for a purpose for the community, not for operations. We spend money. We swipe the credit card for supplies. All my staff have new iPad Pros. We don't have computers. We use iPad Pros for staff because we're a mobile staff. It helps us save on costs such as projector costs as well as photocopy costs, etc. I don't like paper. I'm an IT guy, so we try to be as paperless as possible. Our iPad Pros, they operate as our program tool of choice. I invest the money, thousands of dollars every year to upgrade my staff with new iPad Pros plus keyboards plus Apple Pencils. I'm that invested. And you can swipe that out and get a laptop, whatever works for you. But my staff gets upgraded every year because it's a part of us doing our program. We need them to be effective. We need them to go any and everywhere. And we get internet services as well. We pay for mobile internet services for everyone to operate the program. Is this making sense to you guys as to why you need to smartly budget your program? For some of you that could not pay for all your expenses and you're running at a loss, are you starting to see why you're running at a loss? Tammy, thank you so much for typing that in. Because it's true. Even when you don't admit it, Sheila, thank you. Even when you don't admit it, you didn't budget correctly. This is no different when you're at the end of the month and you don't have enough money to pay your electric bill and they're threatening to cut it off. You got to budget for that stuff. And when you don't make enough money from your day job, you got to hustle to add more money to the household. This is the same thing when you're running a nonprofit business. But let's go to tier 3, overhead costs, management and general expenses, M&G. This is where the rest of the salary of the executive director comes into play. Now, foundations typically do not like to pay more than 10% to admin costs. Admin costs is everything you see in M&G and fundraising columns. In many cases, funders will try to burn you and say, we're not paying no more than 4%, 3%, 2%, 1%. So that means that part of your salary, the $18,500 and the $13,320, may not be able to be covered by a grant. So you got to raise it elsewhere. This is something that we can talk about at another time in another class. But notice how you are spread across multiple elements of the budget. You may not be running program A directly. You may not be running program B directly, but you sure as heck oversee those programs. You make sure it's successful. You make sure you're hiring the right staff. You make sure the culture is the way it should be. You do contribute to the work that goes into program A and program B. But also as executive director, you're managing everything. You're managing the program director. You're managing the teachers, the book writer, the grant writer, the fringe costs. You're managing supply lines, supplies, classroom supplies, snacks, bus rentals. You're negotiating all these things. You're doing a whole heck of a lot in M&G. You're running, get this, a business. Just because it's a nonprofit doesn't mean you're sitting around just teaching all day and working with kids all day and working with the reentry population all day. I know you love what you do. That's why you started this business, because of a passion, because of your heart, but you're running a business. Who's negotiating the rental fees? Somebody tell me, who's negotiating the rental fees? You are. Who's negotiating utility costs, trying to negotiate nickel and dime so you can save some money? You are. Who's buying the supplies for your staff and making sure you order from the right place? You are. Who's raising the money? You are. Yes, you may hire a grant writing consultant, but guess who has to go on those interviews with funders? Guess who has to get a cup of coffee to court a potential funder? You guessed it, you. Therefore, you must be compensated for that. And in this example, this executive director is paid $74,000 to run what looks like a $500,000 program. That seems about right. And look at this. This is how you pay yourself. You have to write yourself into the budget. Please take a moment in the comments, type this out. I must write myself into the budget. Please type it out. This is not for my gratification. This is for you to say this out loud, for you to articulate this. I must write myself into the budget. This is for you to see your own words of affirmation. For you guys who've been toiling and working hard all these years to get your business off the ground, today is the last day you will not get paid. I must write myself into the budget. I must get paid. I must have a salary. I must have a 401k. I may not get my full salary. I may not get $74,000, but as of today, I'm at least going to give myself a stipend every 2 weeks. Even if it's $100 to put gas in my car, I must write myself into the budget, and I'm going to systematically raise this money and increase my salary with my board, and make sure that they know I'm serious about coming on full time. I'm serious about taking care of my family and paying my bills with my nonprofit business as my full-time job. I will get paid. Later today, you're going to get an email from me, probably within an hour or so, with the link to a sample budget tool that's going to help you walk through this. And when you get the link to this tool, I want you to download it, and I want you to study it. And I want you to focus on utilizing this tool. Lauren, you are so welcome. It's my pleasure to provide that tool. You're welcome. And I want you to do a couple of things. I want you to understand how this tool can help you. I want you to focus on paying you first, okay? You cannot deliver on services or create this business and grow it if you are not paid. You're frustrated. Sometimes you don't even look at your nonprofit because you're not getting any value from it. I know it feels good to do the work. I know your heart smiles and it brings joy to your life to do your work. But if you ain't getting paid, and I said ain't, yes, I'm a doctor saying ain't. If you ain't getting paid, it's hard to stay connected to the business you're building. This tool that you're going to get, this financial budgeting tool, is going to help you provide the structure you need to budget and manage your money. This tool also is going to help you provide your customers with the most important resource you have. That's staff. I know you want to give away shoes, clothes, back to school supplies, fill in a blank. I know it seems like that's what nonprofits are there for. It's not. The most important resource of a business, the most important resource that most nonprofits have that they give away if they're not a foundation, which would be money, is your staff. And if you can't pay them a stipend or a salary, then you're not serving your community at your best. I want that to sink in. You got to have your staff paid so you can serve your target audience, your target community with your very best. Don't worry about how much. Don't worry about if you're embarrassed by how little. That's irrelevant. What you're saying when you make a financial commitment to staff is, you're so important to our growth that I'm going to pay you a stipend. I appreciate your service. I appreciate your commitment. And as we grow, and if we grow together and the culture works for the both of us, I would love to bring you on staff when the time is right. This tool that you're going to get in about an hour helps provide your customer with the second most important resource you have. That's programming. Programming is delivered by staff. Programming is inclusive of whatever curriculum you share or teach. It's inclusive of supplies you give away, benefits associated with being. Lashia, you're making me feel good about myself. Thank you. I'm not even done yet. But this helps you give away programming resources. Yes, you want to give away shirts to the homeless, shoes to the homeless. You want to provide housing to battered women. That's great. That's the second most important thing you can give away, programming. But you need to raise money. And this thing I'm going to give you, this tool, helps you structure programming expenses and build capacity concurrently. You got to stop pursuing funders without knowing how much it costs to run your business. It does not cost $500 to run your nonprofit. It does not cost $1,000. It does not cost $1,500. It doesn't cost $5,000. It costs several hundreds of thousands of dollars to run your nonprofit. Don't be scared of those numbers. It's just a reality of what it costs to do business. And as a result and a consequence, you, my friend, the executive director, you have to raise that money. What's next? I want you to replay this class over and over and over again. I want you to open this budget tool. I want you to study the elements of this tool, and I want you to begin to plug in numbers. If you mess up, delete. If you mess up the calculations, go back to the link and re-download again and start all over again. It's quite all right. I want you to start messing around with this. I want you to start calculating what it really costs to run your business. I want you to focus on the total cost of your program to determine, and I should have put this in caps, its true cost. You need to know the true cost of running your business. And then lastly, what's next? Pay you first. An organization that doesn't have a leader, a paid leader, is a leaderless organization. Pay you first. Pay you first. This is not a charity case. You must pay the CEO of your organization. You must pay the executive director of your organization, because your organization needs leadership. And if you are a founder on this call, then instead of saying pay the executive director, that means pay, insert your name first. Your organization indeed needs leadership. This tool, as I said earlier, has helped me budget for and pay staff salary and fringe costs of over $775,000 a year, including my salary. And notice my caution at the end here. My staff and I, we all have livable wages. I can't tell you how many people heard that I work for a nonprofit as I got my career started, and they said, ooh, do y'all make money? How do you feed your family? How do you put clothes on the back of your 3 kids? Dude, this is not a charity case. This is the problem with the mentality that people have around nonprofits and churches and ministries. It's the same concept. People got to eat. You want quality service. You want the lights on, the air conditioner on. You want the heat on. It costs money. So we must raise money. My staff has livable wages, and I'm proud of that. And we get paid well to do what we love to do. That is to serve the people. Who else has this tool helped? This tool has helped Gary, my friend. He raised $11,000 in his first 30-day campaign. And as a result of that, he is now paying himself a salary. This also helped this project called the I-84 Corridor Project. It's one of my projects that I launched in 2017. This particular project covers 30% of my salary and my fringe costs. Remember, we looked at that budget where, as executive director, you're spread over multiple programs. This is true for executives as well. This is true for your program directors as well. This is not unique to nonprofits. This is also applicable to businesses. When I was in the insurance business, working for a large insurance carrier, and I was in the IT department, as the project manager, I was assigned to multiple projects, budgetary wise. My staff that rolled on and off were assigned to multiple projects, budgetary wise. We all got the same salary every 2 weeks, but the breakdown and the application of our expenses were applied to various projects. But this tool that I'm giving you, the example that I shared with you today, the methodology that I shared with you today, pays about 30% of my salary from this particular program, and it's shared across multiple projects that we run. Who has this stuff helped and worked for? It has worked for nonprofit executive directors and CEOs, startup nonprofits, engaged board members who are serious about paying their staff. Real board members want to pay staff and executive directors. Directors of fundraising and grant writing. People that want to do something different for their community. I know your heart's in it. I know you launched this to make a difference, but you can't make a difference if you ain't getting paid. I'm pausing for a minute. Just let that sit. You might think your program is better than the next one, but you can't make a difference. You can't impact lives. You can't impact multiple lives if you are not getting paid. This also works for business owners. But let me ask you a question. What could you do more of if you paid yourself? What could you do more of if you paid your staff? What could you do more of if you budgeted for your program expenses correctly and accurately? Could you work full-time at your nonprofit? Could you serve more kids? Could you help more families? Could you improve the outlook of your community? You can do this and more when you do this full-time. I gladly work in my nonprofit full-time. I gladly run our businesses full-time because I work 9 to 5. And I don't have to worry about hustling in the evening trying to build a nonprofit anymore. I got other projects going on. I got 3 kids and a wife at home that I can focus my time on. If you could flip-flop your hours and focus on paying yourself what could you do more of? This is a deep question, but it's a personal question. With that being said, there's so much more that I want to share with you. Our time is far spent. I want to make sure that I allow time for Q&A. But before I do that, I have to be honest with you.